Hello and welcome to Salmon's Pizzeria, your slice of Scottish football, where today we have got, just myself doing a Scottish Championship roundup, which is perfect for me considering how results have gone. Um, First of all, I just need to grab myself a wee drink, just a lovely, lovely can of Falkirk tears. Refreshing. That's right. The big result of the weekend, Raith Rovers 1, Falkirk 0. What a time it is. The cartoons are back. Falkirk fans are raging. I am a very, very happy man. Went into this game with the team sheets coming out, and for once, Raith had a pretty fit squad. Like, the main complaint I've made on my two appearances on this show have been the fact that we just had players injured, just either injured or suspended. Finally, just aside from Lewis Vaughan, who got injured against Hamilton, everyone was fit pretty much. Callum Fordyce is coming back soon. Scott Brown, who was out recently, he was on the bench. We had players starting in their positions for once, and clearly it worked. The game itself, it was very much up to what most people expected from possibly the beginning of the season, where it'd be two good teams going at each other, very evenly matched, and it very much was. Falkirk playing their typical McGlynn style football, but Neil Collins' football was very much evenly matched. Dylan Easton, easiest man of the match. He was he was. If anybody outside of Raith and Dundee United fans remember that game up at Tannadice where Raith managed to get the win just before Christmas, then you will know how good Dylan Easton can be, how he can just dance around players and just get all these little fouls that rack up the bookings for the opposition team, and that's just what he did. He was just taking the piss basically, and it was brilliant to watch. Of course, Falkirk did come close. Dylan Tate had a free header at the back post. That was about the 53rd minute, but it went over. Falkirk didn't have a shot on target. This game really was just a battle in the midfield. The stats here, let me just put the microphone out of the way. Look at that, incredible planning from me. Raith had one shot on target, and that was the penalty that Dylan Easton won, which Falkirk's goalkeeper, who was Hogarth, he got a hand to it, but Jack Hamilton just had too much power on it. It was just one that it just came off the keeper's hand, went up into the roof of the net. It's one of those where it's like there's two types of good penalties you want. One's where it's like it's impossible for the keeper to reach, or the ones that the keeper can reach, but he's not saving because it's that powerful. And it seemed to be that sort of second one. A result that comes off of the back of a 3-0 draw for Raith, which we really should have won. Unfortunately, I wasn't on last week where I would have gone into detail about how we should have won that game by like 5 or 6 goals. It was ridiculous. And then Falkirk coming off of a 5-2 defeat to Celtic, but a game where they had the lead going in quite late into the second half, really took the game to them. So it was a good game, but it does mean that Falkirk lose their 43 league game unbeaten run, which, funny. Really, really good for Raith to do that. It does mean that they're no longer tied with Ayr United at the top of the table, although they do have 2 games in hand, so it's not the end of the world. But again, welcome to the Championship, Falkirk. You're not playing teams like Edinburgh City anymore. You're playing against professional teams. But speaking of Ayr United, they were able to get themselves a 1-0 win at home against Greenock Morton, and from the looks of it, it wasn't really much of a game for Morton, really. But just looking at, I'm only able to go to one game at a time. There are no representatives from other teams, so my basis is just basically from what I've heard and from what I can see through stuff like the statistics being put up. But from what I can see here, Ayr United 12 shots compared to Morton's 4, and then 5 shots on target for Ayr. to be promoted. However, Ayer's goal did come from a penalty. There was a bit of controversy with it, though. Not with the giving of it or anything, but the taking of the penalty itself. I'd seen the clip, and it's like Morton fans were saying that who was it that took the penalty? Jay Henderson. Apparently, he like kicked or slipped his standing foot or whatever, and so they were trying to argue it was a double kick from the angle that I saw with the Air TV coverage. It didn't look like there was a change in direction or whatever with the ball, so yeah, nothing really much on that, although it is very funny that Ayr United have once again got a penalty at home. They seem to it seems like it's becoming like the penalty for Rangers meme this season with the amount of penalties Ayr seems to be getting. It is quite interesting. I mean, you could argue it's just like you have to get into the opposition box for you to get a penalty. Ayr seem to be really good at that, but also you're expecting me not to make a joke about it. Yeah, sticking with Ayr actually. Scott Brown, this past week, he was linked with the St Johnstone job. He was interviewed. He then turned it down the next day and got himself a brand shiny new contract, which is very good for him, very good for Ayr. Ayr, obviously, they're top of the league still. They're now 3 points clear with the 2 extra games. But he's turned Somerset Park into a real fortress. Yeah, I think Scott Brown came out in the media just saying how they were wanting to. If you want to do well in the league, you need to turn your home stadium into a fortress. I mean, that's an old cliche at this point, but it's true, and he's done exactly that. So, well done, Scott Brown, and all that. Well done, and earning yourself a new contract. He's clearly done a really good job. Maybe that'll put other teams off. Maybe it'll mean that only teams that could pay it off could be like a Hibs or a Celtic, because that seems to be the obvious trajectory for his management career. The thing is with Hibs, that job is going to come up fairly often. They just it's just like that seems to be a poison chalice right now. It's like they just can't seem to keep a manager for a substantial amount of time. But there is also the pitfall of what happened with Ian Murray last season, where he got Raith top of the table halfway through the season, and then just seemingly fell away, and then got sacked this season. The same thing could happen to Scott Brown. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think what he's wanting to do is get Ayr either at the top, at least at the top end, at least finish in the playoffs before he does decide to leave. Just like have some sort of legacy, because I think he only came into the club towards, I think it was around about January or February or something like that. It was definitely around about the beginning of the second half of last season. So he's not been in the job for long. He wants to have something built there that fans will actually remember, instead of just being like, oh yeah, this guy came in for 6 months and he was all right and then left. You know, that's what I imagine he's wanting to do. Speaking of managers leaving, one who hasn't left yet, but I am honestly shocked hasn't, is James McPeak, as his Dunfermline side fell to a 2-1 defeat at home to Queen's Park. Oh my god! Oh, I've just seen the statistics for this. Oh dear. 14 shots for Dunfermline to Queen's Park's 6. But then Queen's Park have 5 shots on target and Dunfermline have 3. Now, I think I have probably made it well known on the Oh No 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 podcast, the Raith Rovers podcast that I'm on fairly often, and in my own pre-season predictions. Dunfermline, the main area that I was worried about with them going into this season was very much the striking department. It was something they struggled with last season, and this season it just did not. Oh my god, I can tell now. They just did not really recruit well in that area at all. I mean, they barely recruited anyone over this over the summer. It's like they still had only one goalkeeper going into this league season. It's no surprise that this has happened, in my opinion. And yeah, Dunfermline are now down to 9th. And I'll be honest, they're just no. It's just I don't see there's very much a bottom three forming right now. You could argue a bottom four of how Raith started the season, but I made a point on the Challenge Cup review about how it was very much a false position just due to the fact we had so many players injured. Dunfermline do and don't, because with Raith it was a lot of first team. It's like the quality of the players that we had injured versus Dunfermline were we had better players out injured, and whereas Dunfermline, even with a fully fit squad, I don't really think they'd be doing much better. That's just how it is. I am a very biased person, so if you're a Dunfermline fan, you can abuse me in the comments. I would greatly appreciate it because I just find it funny. Queens Park, meanwhile, they're actually doing all right, aren't they? They're sitting fourth, 3 wins, 2 draws from their 7 games. A perfectly balanced 0 goal difference. Zach Rudden getting in on the goals, not something I particularly expected considering his time at Raith last season, where he spent more time offside than on it. But no, really, I'm actually quite impressed with that. They're sitting with 11 points. See, unfortunately, we don't have Manpreet on, or Kieran Ashton, or any of the other Partick Thistle fans in the chat here to talk about this, because this is really, really concerning. Hamilton won, Partick Thistle 0. I saw Hamilton last week against Raith were ridiculously lucky. Like, really, really lucky. Even their own manager came out and said they did not deserve a point. Sean Bird came out into the 5-3 press and said, in between getting the penalty and the 80th minute, Accies did not touch the ball in the Raith Rovers box once. Accies are dog shit. They are not a good team. But my God, something is going wrong at Partick. It's like there is a reason. I made this point the last time I was on, where it was a case of there's probably going to be questions being asked about Chris Doolan. They're starting to ramp up now. It's getting bad. It's like it's like their transfer business, like Raith has been. I made this point where it's like Raith and Partick were the 2 best teams to not go up, obviously, and they strengthened their squads. With Raith, it was very much injuries. I don't know what's happened at Partick Thistle, but I have seen a lot of complaints about Chris Doolan, so I am wondering if it is just a case of the performances just not being good enough, and even if I don't know who's out injured, I don't know if there are that many injuries to first team players, but clearly it is weird to see. It's like the teams that many people predicted to be first and second, or at least in a title race, are sitting 6th and 7th. It just shows the championship is a weird mistress, and you just can't really predict what happens in this league. But probably a more predictable result was Livingston 2, Airdrieonians 1. Oh, Airdrie. The darlings of the championship last season, with your free-flowing football and scudding teams left, right and centre. It's your turn to be the ones on the end of being scudded. They've still got 1 win, and that was against Raith when we had Ian Murray, so that was already a given. Outside of that, though, I mean, since then they've scored 3 goals. They've scored 3 goals in their last 6 games, and they've conceded 15. That is very much relegation form. If that was Dunfermline or Greenock Morton, I would not have been surprised. But for how Edry have fallen off from last season, I had my concerns about them. I thought they were still going to be a mid-table team, but it's just last time I was on, both me, Manpreet, and Aaron, we were all saying for our relative teams, so for myself, Raith Rovers, for Manpreet, Partick, and for Aaron, Edgy, it was just a case of waiting on it, just waiting on something clicking, and I don't think it's clicking at Edgy right now. It's like I was very much on the Reece McCabe hype train after last season. I would have been happy if he came in for the Rovers, but right now it is going very, very wrong. So as it stands with the championship, if you haven't seen the table already, A United sits up with 18 points from 8 games, and then it's Falkirk with 15, but from 6, so 2 games in hand. Livingston also have 2 games in hand, but they're sitting on 14 points. Queen's Park, 7 games with 11 points. Hamilton are somehow 5th. I put it down to the fact that, like A United, they are on 8 games and they have 9 points. Partick Thistle, they sit 6th with 8 points from 7. Raith Rovers, 7 points from 7, starting to get some momentum in. Greenock Morton, 6 from 7. And Dunfermline and Edry are your bottom 2 with 4 points from 7. Dunfermline being above with a goal difference of -5 compared to Edry's -11. Yeah, as I was saying earlier, it is not looking good for Edry. But we look ahead to next week's fixtures now, where we have a top-of-the-table clash between Falkirk and Ayr. Falkirk, obviously, coming off the back of a disappointing defeat to Raith Rovers. I'm sure the tear ducts will have dried up and they will be ready to go again. Hopefully not start another 43-match unbeaten run in my case, but that should be a really interesting game to watch. That's definitely the pick of the games this coming week. Queen's Park, they are at home to Hamilton, 2 teams that I believe are, for now, overperforming in regards to where I thought they would be at the beginning of the season. That would be an interesting one. We have Adrionians against Dunfermline, so the bottom 2 playing against each other. I am sure that would be an absolute joy to watch. Greenock Morton are at home to Raith Rovers. Unfortunately, I will not be going to that one. Honestly, thank God, because that involves going to Greenock. And finally, Partick Thistle against Livingston. See, it's really lonely when it's just me by myself. I feel like no, I can't make a schizophrenia joke. Anyway, that is all. It is obviously a very short one. I mean, Stu will have this edited down to get rid of me just having my mind be blank because I've got no one to talk to, nothing to bounce off of. Hopefully next time it isn't just a one-man band. Hopefully there's other people who will be able to give their opinions on what has happened or more insight into other games other than whatever Raith Rovers have been up to. So yeah, I guess that's all for this one. Subscribe to the Callum Life YouTube channel. I'm in charge here. I can plug my own channel. Also, subscribe to Salmon's Pizzeria on YouTube, of course. We also have Instagram, Twitter /X/whatever. Does anybody really care? I think we all just still call it Twitter, don't we? And of course, there is a Facebook page. And that's all for now. And we will see you next week. Bye.